What's going on, YouTube? A couple of years ago I made a video about me making these stars. And in that video, I didn't show you how to cut the angles, but I said that I would one day. Well, 2 years later, and I'm finally going to show you how. So, let's get going. How to cut the angles. Alright, so first off, I've just got some scrap wood here again. This is just old pallet wood. And got my secret weapon here. Made them once and wrote it down so I'd remember. So we're gonna start by setting your miter saw to 54 degrees, and that's going to be making the first few cuts. And I'll show you how to do that. This is the miter saw I'll be using. I've got it preset here to 54 degrees. And I'm going to start by cutting each one of my pieces of wood here. I've got 3 to 54 degrees. And then I will show you how long to cut them. Next, we're going to make another 54 degree cut, and that will be measured at 11 inches from this point to here. Now that's dealing with 1x4 stock. If you're dealing with wider pieces of wood, you're going to have to go longer, and if you're dealing with narrower pieces of wood, you're going to have to go shorter. I could probably show you some calculations for that as well. I kind of accidentally figured out how to make that work by using ratios. Yeah, just for now, we'll do the standard 1x4 stock. I feel like that's pretty common for people to get their hands on. So when I say 1x4, I don't know if everybody knows this, but let me get my measuring tape here. Holding the camera. 1x4 actually usually ends up being 3.5 inches wide. And it's not usually an inch, it's usually 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, this stock is exactly 3.5 inches wide. Just FYI. Trying to be as accurate as possible here for you guys. So I'll go ahead and get those pieces cut. Just one more thing before I cut these. You probably noticed I clamped this here. That's a stop block, so that every time I slide this piece of wood here, if I'm cutting multiple pieces, they will always be the same length, rather than having to measure each piece 11 inches and maybe have them be a little bit off. So I can just do multiple ones nice and quick. So here's what we got so far. 3 pieces that are identical, 11 inches long. The total length obviously is longer. I'm just measuring from here to here. Both edges are 11 inches. Both angles are 54 degrees. And next, we're going to be setting our saw to 36 degrees. And we are going to be cutting basically 2 pieces of the 5-point star out per piece. So let me show you that part, and it might make a little bit more sense. And just actually one more thing. So the reason it's 11 inches long is because I've done this before, and I know that that gives me enough room to cut 2 pieces for the star. So like I said earlier, if you're dealing with a 1x6, for example, you're going to need to go longer. I don't have those measurements at the moment, but this will work for a 1x4, which is actually 3.5 inches wide. So the saw is set up at 36 degrees. Your saw has to be pretty accurate for the angles to fit together. So make sure that this thing is not bent, because that'll throw your angles off. In the end, when you try to put it together and if there's too many gaps or it's not fitting together properly, you'll know that your saw is not quite right and you can make some adjustments. Basically just by moving this way or that way by like a millimeter or two. So what's going on here? You can see I've clamped something here. So this is the piece of wood we're dealing with. I've set up a scrap piece of the 54 degrees that we used earlier, and that'll be used to slide this into here and kind of lock it in place for what I'm cutting, because we're dealing with a pretty small piece and there is a risk of kickback or it biting and pulling the piece into that, and if you're just holding it with your hands, that would be pretty dangerous. So my hand's not going to go anywhere near this area while cutting. Now, how do you know how far, oops, I'm stuck here, where to clamp this piece of wood? Well, this edge here that's about 6 inches long. It's 6 1/8. So we're just going to round to 6. And you're going to measure, let me get the camera set up right here. There we go. You're going to measure 6 inches from this point to right here along the flat edge. And then that's where you're going to make the 36-degree cut. So the first cut you make, you want the flat edge against the fence and you want to slide that in there. If you do it the other way like this, as you can see, you end up with something completely different, right? So don't do that. Do this. And we're going to make one cut. We're going to flip it over. And we're going to make the other cut. So now you're left with two awkward shaped pieces. All you're going to do is flip it upside down, tuck it back in there, and make the next 36-degree angle cut. And you don't have to readjust any of your stop blocks or jigs or anything like that. Just keep going. I'll just show you one more thing here. So just to show you how effective this is, once you slide that in there, when you bring that blade down, the force is going to be going this way. And it's going to be pushing on that piece of wood. As you can see, I'm pushing on it, and it's not moving. It's not flying anywhere. So I like this method. I feel like it's definitely a lot safer than holding it with your hand. And I'm still going to wedge this right here just in case. Probably won't do much, but, can't hurt. I guess you could probably hold it there too, like that. Anyways, yeah, that's that. All right, so that works really well. We've got two pieces here. Starting to look like part of a star. I'll go ahead and cut these off camera. Obviously, we only need 5, but we're going to end up with 6. But If you were like mass producing these, that wouldn't really matter. You'd have a bunch of these that you're doing all at the same time. So I'll go ahead and cut those off camera and get back to you here. And there it is. Place all 5 pieces together and you will get yourself a perfect fitting Texas star. All I need to do now is glue it together. I like to use wood glue. I get a nice tight fit. If I use a hot glue gun, I find that it leaves gaps, kind of throws the alignment of the star off. So I recommend gluing it together with wood glue, laying it on a flat surface, kind of squeezing everything together. Once that's glued, flip it over and put a backing on it to just hold everything together a little more firmly. You can see what I did on the first video. So that's it. If you like this video, please subscribe. I could use a few more subscribers. And hope you enjoyed.